L.A Noire, a game that was released on May 17th, 2011 on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 to massive critical acclaim. This is actually like the second Rockstar game I've ever beaten in my life, and the only other one I've ever beaten is GTA 5. Oh, come on! Put the pitchforks away for Christ's sake. Now, I'm sure why people such as myself and others enjoyed L.A Noire was the story and even the gameplay. Regardless on how frustrating it may be at times to hear that little fucking bum 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 that makes about any sane human being throw their controller at their $700 smart TV and rip out their Xbox and throw it off a 20-story parking garage. But I digress. However, I'm not here today to replay L.A Noire, even as much as I would love to. No, let's talk about something different. You would imagine that development may not have taken as long as you may think, or not. Well, in L.A Noire's case, there is this huge open world set in 1940s Los Angeles, and all you can really do is the story missions and maybe some side collectible pickups or anything else of the sorts, but that's about it. You drive by a shop while free roaming and you realize you can't enter. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 took about 3 years of quote core or full development, then took an additional 2 years to make any changes or additions or tweaks to the final product. I mean, then again, the development time could technically vary by studio, as in L.A Noire's case, it was mainly developed by a studio based in Australia named Team Bondi, with some additional help from Rockstar. Even the game itself doesn't run on Rockstar's proprietary game engine, the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, or RAGE for short. It runs on its own independently developed engine created by Team Bondi. To go back to the point I just made about development time, I couldn't necessarily find how many people in total worked on the game. There's been at least over 100 people who are left uncredited, which is something I will get into later, but it has been said that Rockstar has assisted in its development with help from many different Rockstar studios around the world. Regardless, we have to thank a lot of people for the absolute hell, allegedly, that these developers had to go through to give us a final product. Let's dive in.
So we developed for PlayStation 3, and that's kind of what we're good at. But as soon as we moved the project across to Rockstar, we went multi-platform straight away. Rockstar have always done multi-platform, and that's why they get such a big audience. So it's kind of crazy if you're an independent developer these days not to do that. So, there has to be an amazingly good financial reason not to do that. So we kind of went from PS3 to Xbox, so that was kind of, supposedly that's an easier route than going the other way around, so that's the way we did it.
Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio.
The year is 2003. An Australian man by the name of Brendan McNamara has an idea to find his own game development studio in the city of Sydney, Australia. Previously, McNamara had worked at Sony Computer Entertainment Europe's subsidiary, Team Soho, where he directed the 2002 PlayStation 2 game, The Getaway. In January 2004, it was announced in the magazine Game Developer that the newly formed studio, that was spearheaded by McNamara, Team Bondi, was doing new research on a title for the third generation of PlayStation hardware. It was also mentioned that the newly formed studio was staffed with several members from Team Soho, and also had an exclusive publishing deal with Sony Computer Entertainment America, with Sony funding the whole project. Development would soon begin on the later named L.A Noire, starting sometime around 2004. In July of 2005, it was announced that it was going to be a PlayStation 3 exclusive title, with all we knew at the time was that it was being described as a quote detective thriller.
Even if they do, we play along, and who knows, we might get bumped up a disc. That's him! Get him!
In the same GameSpot article, they said that Team Bondi was in an exclusive agreement with Sony to produce, quote, 2 more PlayStation 3 games. Quite interesting. However, in September of 2006, it was announced that Rockstar Games would be handling the publishing and even appeared to be assisting in the development and giving certain opinions on what they would want from the game, with Rockstar founder Sam Houser serving as executive producer of the game alongside McNamara. It appeared that Sony had agreed to let Rockstar take over as the game's publisher. The technology being used to create the game was certainly unique for the time, with a technology called motion scan, which was an advanced way to perform facial motion capture. While similar technology existed, this was a custom-built in-house technology developed by Team Bondi's newly formed sister company, Depth Analysis. The technology was considered an alternative to traditional facial motion capture. It had utilized around 32 high-definition cameras that were set up to surround the actor to completely capture all head and facial movements, in what appeared to be some of the most detailed facial motion cap for the time. Now this sounds amazing and alright, so you'd imagine with research and development of all of this, it would be finished maybe 5-6 years after beginning development? Well, it was actually intended to be finished and released around the 2008 fiscal period. According to a Take-Two Interactive financial results report from June 2007, it would list the year 2008 for L.A Noire's release. However, an article posted on September 10, 2007 from Shaft News said that 2 of Rockstar's games were going to be delayed to fiscal year 2009, according to an earnings conference call with Take-Two's then chairman, Strauss Zelnick. This fiscal year would begin in November of 2008. This was later re-reported by Eurogamer. Then the game was further delayed to a window of September 2010, according to the magazine Game Informer. This was originally alleged by game journalist Jeff Keighley via a tweet posted on February 6, 2010. Later, Game Informer confirmed a release window of September 2010. In January of 2010, it was alleged by an anonymous Twitter user that Brendan McNamara had mismanaged Team Bondi in its development of L.A Noire and spent, quote, tens of millions on proprietary technology in just a year. And that's when it was dropped by Sony. Quote, it had far exceeded Sony Computer Entertainment of America's expected price tag for the game. The tweets also alleged that the project had already costed Sony $20 million plus US dollars. They had also alleged that by the end of 2005, the first group of employees hired by Team Bondi, which may have included the ones who moved from Team Soho in Europe, quit, saying that by 2005, the employee count had dropped to single digits. Now, the validity of these claims are completely unknown. The owner of the account wasn't an employee of Team Bondi, but was reporting on what they heard through unnamed sources. However, this appeared to do nothing for the time being as everyone moved on. September 2010 came and went, and there was no L.A Noire. However, on September 2nd, 2010, an article was written on Game Informer saying that the game was delayed yet again, now with a release window into the first half of 2011. 2010 was already a pretty good year for Take-Two, with the spotlight being placed on Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption, which was released in May of 2010, and by September it had already sold about 6.9 million copies. Finally, on January 24, 2011, an article was posted on GameSpot that via a leaked trailer that there was a release date, May 17, 2011. For some reason, around 4 days prior, many retailers had a set release date for April 5, 2011, and of course it was later confirmed by Rockstar that the release date would be May 17, 2011 for North America. Europe would receive it just a few days later on May 20th. Well, after beginning development in 2004, taking 7 years to fully develop, was it worth it? In a way, yes and no. Including the DLC, there are about 26 cases to complete, taking about 21.5 hours to complete it if you don't fuck up playing detective. Yes, in the way of the game's story was pretty good and the actual gameplay itself was quite impressive for 2011. Moving on to no, a good amount of criticism was directed towards the game for not really being that open. Yes, it's an open world game, but anytime you can go in free roam, you can't enter any of the buildings or shops unless you're on a mission or case. And even then, those are very particular buildings that only pertain to that case. Another common critique I found was that the body movements didn't really match up to the more detailed facial expressions. However, even in 2011, this appeared to have been more of a difficult task to achieve than what we could today. However, many questioned, this took 7 years? Even with the help from Rockstar and a good chunk of its development and its publishing, it still took from start to finish 7 years. Well, one Australian journalist by the name of Andrew McMillan had the same question.
That's a joke too, son. Phelps, you mind if I shoot this guy? He's getting on my nerves.